The chandeliers in the Rossi mansion had always reminded me of teardrops. Crystal teardrops suspended in air, their light refracting across marble floors that weren't mine to walk on freely. Only to clean. Only to polish until I could see my tired reflection staring back at me. 23 years old and already invisible. Lucia, you missed a spot. Mrs. Genovese, the head housekeeper, tapped her finger against the mahogany dining table that stretched almost the entire length of the room. Her gold bracelet clinked against the wood, the sound sharp in the cavernous space. Mr. Rossi is hosting important guests tonight. Everything must be perfect, I nodded, lowering my eyes. Yes, ma'am. My voice was barely audible, even to myself. That's how I'd learned to survive in this world of wealth and power, by becoming nothing more than a shadow that moved efficiently through rooms, touching nothing but the dirt I was paid to remove. The Rossi estate sat like a crown on the hills overlooking the city, a modern fortress disguised as a luxury residence. I'd worked here for 8 months, grateful for the steady income that helped support my younger sister through college. Our parents had died 3 years ago. Car accident, they said. Though rumors in our old neighborhood hinted at debts to the wrong people. I never asked questions. Questions were dangerous in this city. And remember, Mrs. Genovese added, her voice dropping to a whisper though we were alone. Tonight you are to remain completely invisible. Mr. Rossi's associates are not the kind of men who should notice someone like you. I understood her warning. In my months working at the mansion, I'd never actually seen Dante Rossi up close. He moved through his home like a ghost. Or perhaps I was the ghost, always being ushered into different wings when he approached. All I knew came from whispers among the staff. 32 years old, unmarried, ruthless in business. The kind of business that required armed guards at every entrance of the property. The east wing of the mansion was reserved exclusively for him. None of us were allowed to clean there, except on specific days when he was away. Today was not one of those days, but a special dinner required additional help, which was why I found myself polishing silver in the main kitchen as evening approached. The chef, Marco, barked orders at his assistants while preparing what smelled like osso buco. The rich aroma of braised veal, wine, and herbs filled the kitchen, making my stomach clench. I hadn't eaten since my meager breakfast at dawn. "You, Maid," Marco called out. "Take these wine glasses to the dining room. And don't you dare break them. They cost more than you make in a year." I carefully arranged the crystal glasses on a silver tray, their delicate stems like spindly legs of insects between my fingers. As I made my way through the service corridor, I heard unfamiliar voices from the adjoining room. Deep, male voices speaking in hushed tones. "The shipment arrives tomorrow night," one said. "Castellano's men will be watching the docks. We need to be certain." The voices fell silent as a door closed somewhere. I realized I'd stopped walking, my breath caught in my throat. I wasn't supposed to hear any of this. Quickly, I continued toward the dining room, my heart racing beneath my starched black uniform. As I placed the last glass at its designated setting, I noticed something odd, a faint, bitter almond smell coming from one of the decanters. The wine had already been poured, rich red liquid catching the light from those teardrops above, but something felt wrong. That scent reminded me of something. A warning from my father, who'd worked in pharmaceuticals before losing his job. "Cyanide smells like bitter almonds, Lucia. Never forget that." My hand trembled as I reached for the decanter. It was positioned at the head of the table, Mr. Rossi's seat. I glanced around nervously. No one was watching. The staff were all busy with final preparations in other areas. I brought the crystal to my nose and inhaled slightly. There it was again. Unmistakable. My heart hammered against my ribs. What was I supposed to do? Who would believe a maid's suspicions about poisoned wine? And if I was wrong, I'd lose my job instantly. "What are you doing?" The voice froze me in place. I nearly dropped the decanter, catching it with fumbling hands at the last moment. Turning, I found myself face to face with Mrs. Genovese. Her thin eyebrows arched so high they disappeared beneath her graying hair. I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought I noticed something odd about this wine." "Your job is to serve, not to think." She snatched the decanter from my hands. "Return to the kitchen immediately. You've been reassigned to washing dishes tonight." I hesitated, my mouth opening to protest, but the sharp look in her eyes silenced me. With a quick curtsy, I retreated toward the kitchen, my mind racing. What if I was right? What if someone had poisoned Mr. Rossi's wine? But why would anyone listen to me, the invisible maid who barely spoke above a whisper? I was halfway down the service corridor when I made my decision. Turning abruptly, I headed for the security office instead. Mr. Leone, the head of security, had always been kind to me. Perhaps he would listen. The security room was empty except for one guard watching the monitors. Not Mr. Leone. "Excuse me," I said, my voice cracking. The guard turned, irritation flashing across his face at being interrupted. "I need to speak with Mr. Leone immediately. It's important. About tonight's dinner. Mr. Leone is with the boss. Whatever you need can wait." He turned back to the screens. "Please," I insisted, surprising myself with my boldness. "I think someone may have tampered with Mr. Rossi's wine. I smelled something like bitter almonds." The guard laughed, cutting me off. "The little maid thinks she's a detective now? Go back to your mop, sweetheart." Heat rushed to my face. Shame and frustration warred within me. But underneath it all was fear, not for myself, but for what might happen if I was right and did nothing. I left the security office, my mind churning through options. The dinner would start in less than 20 minutes. Mr. Rossi's life could depend on what I did next. In a moment of desperate inspiration, I slipped into an empty bathroom and pulled out my phone. The staff had been given a number to call in case of maintenance emergencies. It connected directly to the household manager, who would then contact Mr. Rossi if necessary. I'd never used it before. None of us had. Using this line for anything less than a true emergency meant immediate termination. My fingers trembled as I dialed. "This is Davidson," a clipped voice answered. "Sir, I'm sorry to disturb you, but this is Lucia Esposito, one of the maids. I have reason to believe someone has poisoned the wine intended for Mr. Rossi tonight. It smells of bitter almonds, which could indicate cyanide." "Ms. Esposito," Davidson interrupted, his voice cold with disbelief. "Do you understand the consequences of making false accusations in this household?" "Yes, sir, but I—" "Return to your duties immediately. We'll discuss your employment status tomorrow morning." The line went dead. I stared at my phone in disbelief, tears stinging my eyes. No one would listen. No one would believe the maid with the wild story about poisoned wine. There was only one option left. I would have to warn Mr. Rossi directly. The thought made my stomach clench with terror. Staff never approached Mr. Rossi. Ever. But what choice did I have? I couldn't let someone die because I was too afraid to speak up. Leaving the bathroom, I moved with purpose toward the main part of the house. The guests would be arriving soon, and Mr. Rossi would be greeting them in the grand foyer. If I could just get a moment of his attention. I rounded the corner and froze. Standing in the hallway, deep in conversation with Mr. Leone, was a man I instantly recognized despite never having seen him up close before. Dante Rossi. Even in stillness, he emanated power. Tall, with broad shoulders, accentuated by his impeccably tailored black suit. Dark hair swept back from a face that artists would want to sculpt, all sharp angles and perfect symmetry. But it was his stillness that struck me most. The controlled precision of a predator who never needed to rush, because prey inevitably came to him. My courage faltered. What was I thinking? This man could destroy my life with a word. The thought of approaching him made my knees weak. Then I noticed the time on the ornate clock in the hall. 15 minutes until dinner. 15 minutes until he might drink poisoned wine. I forced myself forward on trembling legs. "Excuse me," I said, my voice embarrassingly small. Neither man turned. "Mr. Rossi?" I tried again, louder this time. Both men turned simultaneously. Mr. Leone's face darkened with anger, but I kept my eyes fixed on Dante Rossi. Up close, his eyes were unsettling, deep brown, almost black, and completely unreadable. No warmth, no coldness. Just intense observation. "Sir, I apologize for the interruption, but there's something you need to know before dinner." The words tumbled out too quickly. "I believe someone has poisoned your wine. It smells of bitter almonds, which could be cyanide, and I tried to tell security and Mr. Davidson, but no one would listen to me, and I know I shouldn't approach you directly, but I couldn't just say nothing if there's a chance." "Enough." The single word from Rossi's lips silenced me instantly. He hadn't raised his voice at all, yet that one quiet word seemed to suck all the air from the corridor. "What is your name?" "Lucia Esposito, sir. I work as a maid in the East Wing." His gaze intensified, studying me as if I were a puzzle with missing pieces. "Leone, have the wine tested immediately." "Boss, this is ridiculous. She's just a maid looking for attention. Now." Again, that quiet voice that somehow contained absolute authority. Mr. Leone gave me a withering look before hurrying away. Dante Rossi continued to watch me, his expression unreadable. "How did you recognize the smell of cyanide, Lucia Esposito?" The way he said my name sent an involuntary shiver down my spine. "My father worked in pharmaceuticals, sir," he taught me. A ghost of a smile touched his lips, there and gone so quickly I might have imagined it. "And you risked your position here to warn me?" I nodded, dropping my gaze to the floor. "It was the right thing to do, sir." He said nothing for so long that I risked glancing up. He was still watching me with that same intensity, as if trying to see through my skin to whatever lay beneath. "Return to your duties," he finally said. "Leone will find you later." I understood the dismissal and backed away, my heart still racing. As I turned to go, his voice stopped me once more. "Lucia." Just my first name this time, spoken differently, softer. "Thank you." I nodded, unable to form words, and hurried back to the safety of the service corridors. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'd spoken directly to Dante Rossi and lived to tell about it. But the night was far from over, and I had no idea what consequences awaited me. 3 hours later, I was scrubbing pots in the kitchen when Mrs. Genovese appeared at my side. "Come with me," she said, her expression giving nothing away. I dried my hands on my apron, anxiety coiling in my stomach. This was it. I was about to be fired, or worse. She led me through the quiet house to a part of the mansion I'd never entered before. Mr. Rossi's private study. My palms grew damp with each step. When she knocked softly on the heavy wooden door, I thought I might faint. "Enter," came that same quiet, commanding voice from earlier. Mrs. Genovese opened the door, nodded for me to go in, and then left, closing the door behind me. Dante Rossi sat behind an enormous desk of dark wood, the lamp beside him casting dramatic shadows across his face. The room smelled of leather, expensive cologne, and old books. "You were right," he said without preamble. "The wine contained enough cyanide to kill everyone at the table 3 times over." I exhaled a shaky breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "I'm glad it was discovered in time, sir." "Indeed." He leaned forward slightly, the movement causing light to shift across his features. "Leone tells me that you tried to warn security before coming to me directly." "Yes, sir." "And no one believed you." It wasn't a question, but I nodded anyway. "Do you know what would have happened tonight if you hadn't noticed that smell, Lucia?" The way he said my name still sent that same strange shiver through me. "You would have died, sir, along with my captains and their wives. 12 people." His voice remained calm, conversational even. 12 deaths prevented because a maid noticed something everyone else missed. He stood suddenly, causing me to take an involuntary step backward. "Do you know who would want me dead, Lucia?" No, sir." He smiled then, a cold expression that never reached his eyes. "The list is quite long, I assure you." He moved from behind his desk with a fluid grace of a predator, and I fought the urge to retreat further. Every instinct warned me to keep distance between us, yet I remained rooted to the spot as he approached. "What do you know about me, Lucia?" His voice was deceptively soft. "Very little, sir." I kept my eyes lowered, focusing on the pattern of the carpet beneath my feet. "Only what the staff says." "And what do they say?" There was amusement in his tone now. I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. "That you're a powerful businessman, that it's best to remain invisible when you're around." "Invisible." He repeated the word thoughtfully. "Yet you chose to make yourself very visible today." My heart hammered against my ribs. "I couldn't let you die, sir, even knowing who I am, what I do." He circled me slowly, and I could feel his eyes assessing every detail of my appearance. The simple black uniform, my dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, my hands still reddened from hot water and cleaning chemicals. "I don't know what you do, Mr. Rossi," I whispered. He stopped directly in front of me. "Look at me, Lucia." I raised my eyes to meet his. Up close, I could see flecks of amber in those dark irises, the only warmth in an otherwise cold gaze. "I believe you," he said after a moment. "You've been working here for how long?" 8 months, sir. 8 months. He nodded slowly. "And in all that time, you've never been curious about your employer? Never listened to the gossip in the city?" "I need this job, sir. My sister—" I stopped myself, realizing I was sharing too much. "Your sister?" he prompted. I swallowed hard. "My sister is in college. I help with her tuition." Something shifted in his expression, so subtle I might have imagined it. "Family is important," he said quietly. "Loyalty to family above all else." "Yes, sir." He turned away suddenly, walking back to his desk. "We have a problem, Lucia. Someone in my household tried to kill me tonight. Someone with access to my private dining room." "Someone I trusted." I remained silent, unsure if he expected a response. "Do you know what happens to people who betray my trust?" he asked, his back still to me. A chill ran down my spine. "No, sir. They disappear." He turned to face me again. "But you've proven your loyalty tonight. You risked everything to warn me, despite having no obligation to do so." "It was the right thing to do." "Yes, you said that." He smiled, a genuine expression this time that transformed his face completely. "Not many people in my world are concerned with doing the right thing, Lucia." He pressed a button on his desk, and within seconds, the door opened behind me. Mr. Leone entered, his expression carefully blank. "Leone, Ms. Esposito will be reassigned, effective immediately." My stomach dropped. Reassigned? Was this a euphemism for something worse? "She'll join my personal household staff. Arrange for her belongings to be moved to quarters in the East Wing." I stared at him in shock. The East Wing was his private domain, where only his most trusted people were allowed. "Sir?" I managed, my voice barely audible. "You saved my life, Lucia. I keep those I trust close to me." His tone made it clear the matter wasn't open for discussion. "Leone will escort you to your new quarters. Get some rest. We'll discuss your new duties in the morning." With that dismissal, I followed Mr. Leone from the room in a daze. He led me through corridors I'd only glimpsed before, to a part of the mansion that had been strictly off-limits. "This is your room," he said, opening a door to reveal a space 3 times larger than my previous shared quarters in the staff wing, a luxuriously appointed bedroom with an attached private bathroom. "Your belongings will be brought up shortly." I stepped inside, overwhelmed by the sudden change in circumstances. "Mr. Leone, I don't understand." "Listen carefully," he interrupted, his voice low and urgent. "You've caught the boss's attention. That's both a blessing and a curse. Dante Rossi rewards loyalty, but he expects absolute discretion. Whatever you see or hear in this wing stays here. Understood?" I nodded numbly. "Good. Someone will come for you at 7 tomorrow morning." He hesitated at the door. "And Lucia, you were right about the wine. I should have listened. I won't make that mistake again." After he left, I sank onto the edge of the bed, my mind struggling to process everything that had happened. Just this morning, I had been an invisible maid cleaning crystal teardrops. Tonight, I'd been moved to the inner sanctum of Dante Rossi's world, a world I understood was far more dangerous than I'd allowed myself to acknowledge. Sleep came fitfully that night, despite the luxurious comfort of my new bed. I dreamed of dark eyes watching me, of wine glasses filling with blood instead of burgundy, of crystal teardrops falling and shattering on marble floors. The knock on my door came precisely at 7. I'd been awake since dawn, having showered and dressed in my uniform, uncertain what else to do. When I opened the door, I found a woman I'd never seen before waiting for me. "I'm Valentina, Mr. Rossi's household manager for the East Wing," she introduced herself. Tall, elegant, perhaps in her 40s, she carried herself with the poise of someone accustomed to authority. "You must be Lucia." "Yes, ma'am." She studied me with shrewd eyes. "You're the one who discovered the poisoned wine." "Yes, ma'am." "Follow me. Mr. Rossi wishes to speak with you." As we walked through corridors adorned with artwork worth more than I would earn in several lifetimes, Valentina briefed me on my new position. "You'll no longer be performing general household duties. Instead, you'll be responsible solely for Mr. Rossi's private quarters and his immediate needs." She glanced at me. It's a position of considerable trust. One that others would kill for. Her choice of words sent a shiver through me. Mr. Rossi values loyalty above all else, she continued. He also values discretion. Whatever you see or hear in this wing stays here. Yes, Mr. Leone explained. She nodded approvingly. Good. Remember that, and you'll do fine. We stopped outside a set of double doors. Valentina knocked once, then opened them without waiting for a response. The room beyond was a spacious sitting room, bathed in morning light from floor-to-ceiling windows. Dante Rossi stood by one of these windows, speaking quietly into a phone. He was dressed more casually than the previous night. Dark trousers and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle. A holstered gun was visible at his hip, the sight of it making my breath catch. He ended his call as we entered, turning to face us. Valentina. Lucia. His eyes lingered on me. Did you sleep well? Yes, sir. Thank you. Good. He gestured for me to sit in one of the armchairs while he took the seat opposite. Valentina remained standing, a silent presence by the door. We need to discuss what happened last night, and your role going forward. I perched nervously on the edge of the chair. My role, sir? Someone tried to kill me in my own home, Lucia. Someone with access, knowledge of my routine, and confidence they wouldn't be caught. His voice remained calm, conversational even, though the subject matter chilled me. I need to know who. I don't understand how I can help with that, sir. You notice things others miss. You acted when others dismissed you. He leaned forward slightly. I want you to continue doing exactly that, but now you'll be my eyes and ears in parts of the house where I need them most. Understanding dawned slowly. You want me to spy for you? A smile touched his lips. I want you to perform your duties as assigned by Valentina while remaining observant. Report anything unusual directly to me or to Leone, no one else. I glanced nervously at Valentina, who watched our exchange with an unreadable expression. You'll attend to my private quarters, Dante continued. You'll also occasionally serve during my private meetings when I entertain guests here, rather than in the main house. The position comes with a substantial increase in salary. He named a figure that made me gasp involuntarily, triple what I currently earned. That's very generous, sir. I value loyalty, Lucia, and I protect what's mine. The possessive way he said those words sent a strange flutter through my stomach. I wasn't sure if it was fear or something else entirely. Do you have questions? He asked. 1,000, but only one seemed important at that moment. What happened to the person who tried to poison you? Something dark flickered in his eyes. We're still determining who was responsible. When we do... He left the sentence unfinished, but his meaning was clear. Your first duty will be to prepare my quarters for a meeting this afternoon. Valentina interjected smoothly. I'll show you exactly what needs to be done. Dante nodded in agreement. We'll speak again later, Lucia. It was a dismissal. I rose from my seat, uncertain of the proper protocol. Should I curtsy? Nod? In the end, I simply murmured, "Thank you, sir," before following Valentina from the room. As the door closed behind us, I could feel his eyes on my back, like a physical weight between my shoulder blades. He likes you, Valentina remarked as we walked down the corridor. I just did what anyone would do. She laughed, a surprisingly warm sound. No, they wouldn't. Most people in this house would have kept their heads down and said nothing, even knowing what might happen. I said nothing, processing her words as she led me to Dante's private suite. These are Mr. Rossi's personal rooms, she explained, using a key card to open a door. You'll clean them daily, change the linens twice weekly, and ensure everything is arranged exactly as he prefers it. The suite was larger than the entire apartment I'd shared with my sister before she left for college. A bedroom with a massive 4-poster bed dominated by dark linens, an adjoining bathroom with marble and glass, a walk-in closet filled with suits that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Mr. Rossi is particular about his things, Valentina continued, showing me exactly how he liked his clothing arranged, his toiletries organized. Nothing is to be moved without his explicit permission. As she spoke, I noticed a framed photograph on the bedside table, the only personal item in the otherwise impeccable room. A woman with dark hair, and Dante's eyes smiled at the camera. her arm around a much younger version of him. "His mother," Valentina said, noting my gaze. "She died 10 years ago." I nodded, feeling I'd glimpsed something important, a piece of the puzzle that was Dante Rossi. "One last thing, Lucia." Valentina's tone became serious. "Mr. Rossi has enemies, many enemies. Working this closely with him puts you in their line of sight as well. Your safety is now a priority, which is why you've been moved to the East Wing. Do not leave the property without security clearance. Understood?" The reality of my new position settled over me like a weight. I was no longer just a maid. I was now connected to whatever dangerous world Dante Rossi inhabited. "Understood," I whispered, wondering what I had gotten myself into. The days that followed settled into an unsettling rhythm. Each morning I would awaken in my luxurious room, a gilded cage I was beginning to realize, and attend to Dante Rossi's private quarters. The work itself wasn't difficult. In fact, it was easier than my previous duties. But the weight of constant observation made my hands tremble as I straightened his immaculate suits or changed the sheets on his bed. He was rarely present during these moments. According to Valentina, he spent most mornings in meetings elsewhere on the property or in the city. But evidence of his presence lingered everywhere. The faint scent of his cologne, a coffee cup left on his desk, a book with a page marked. It was during my 3rd day that I discovered the gun safe in his closet, hidden behind a panel of suits. I hadn't meant to find it. I'd been reaching for a fallen cufflink when my hand brushed against something that clicked. The panel slid open silently, revealing a steel safe with a digital keypad. I closed it immediately, my heart racing, and never mentioned it to anyone. On the 4th day, I was arranging fresh flowers in his sitting room when he entered unexpectedly. I froze, a white lily suspended in my hands above the crystal vase. "Don't stop on my account," he said, shrugging off his suit jacket and draping it over a chair. There was a tension in his movements I hadn't noticed before, a tightness around his eyes. "Is everything all right, sir?" The question slipped out before I could stop myself. His eyes found mine, surprise flickering across his features. "Why do you ask?" I lowered my gaze, focusing on arranging the lilies. "You seem concerned about something." He was silent for so long that I risked glancing up again. He was watching me with that same intense focus I remembered from our first encounter. "We haven't found the traitor yet," he finally said. "It makes me uneasy in my own home." "I'm sorry to hear that, sir." I placed the last flower and stepped back from the arrangement. "Have you noticed anything unusual, Lucia? Anyone behaving strangely?" I considered his question carefully. "The staff is nervous. Everyone knows something happened that night. Though the details have been kept quiet, there are whispers." "What kind of whispers?" He moved closer, and I caught a whiff of his scent, sandalwood and something darker underneath, like smoke. "That someone tried to hurt you, that you're looking for them." I met his gaze briefly before looking away. "That whoever it was won't be found alive." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "And what do you think of these whispers?" I swallowed hard. I think whoever tried to poison an entire dinner party doesn't deserve mercy." His eyebrows rose slightly at my response. "You surprise me, Lucia Esposito." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. "I have to go. We'll continue this conversation later." After he left, I released a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Something about Dante Rossi's presence consumed all the oxygen in a room, made it hard to think clearly. It wasn't just fear, though fear was certainly part of it. It was something else, something I wasn't ready to name. Later that afternoon, Valentina informed me that Dante would be hosting a private dinner in his quarters that evening. I would be serving, along with one other trusted staff member. "Who will be attending?" I asked, hoping to prepare appropriately. "Mr. Castellano." Valentina's expression gave nothing away, but I recognized the name from the conversation I'd overheard days ago. "It's an important meeting. Everything must be perfect." I nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'll make sure of it." The dining room in Dante's private wing was smaller than the main one, but no less opulent. I spent the afternoon polishing silver and crystal until every surface gleamed. By 6 o'clock, The table was set immaculately, and I had changed into a more formal black uniform that Valentina had provided. "Remember," she cautioned as we made final preparations, "you are to serve efficiently and remain invisible otherwise. Mr. Castellano is not a man who appreciates being observed." At precisely 7, I heard voices approaching. I took my position near the serving table, eyes downcast, hands clasped before me. The door opened and Dante entered, followed by an older man with silver-streaked hair and a face mapped with deep lines. Despite his age, perhaps in his 60s, he moved with the assurance of someone accustomed to power. "The East Wing suits you, Dante," Castellano remarked, his voice carrying the roughness of a lifetime smoker. "Your father would be proud of what you've built here." "My father would have considered it an unnecessary extravagance," Dante replied, a hint of humor in his tone as he gestured toward the table. "Please, sit." I moved forward silently, pouring wine into their glasses. As I leaned between them, I felt Castellano's eyes on me, assessing. I kept my face carefully blank, focusing on the task at hand. "New staff?" he asked Dante as I stepped back. "Recently promoted," Dante replied. "Lucia has proven herself valuable." The way he said my name sent an involuntary shiver through me, Castellano noticed, his lips curving in a knowing smile that made my skin crawl. "I see." He took a sip of his wine, eyes still on me. Pretty little thing. Dante's expression didn't change, but something in the air did. A subtle shift in tension, like the moment before lightning strikes. "Lucia, bring the first course." I hurried to comply, grateful for the excuse to leave the room. In the kitchen, Marco handed me 2 plates with artfully arranged appetizers. "Don't spill," he warned, as if I needed the reminder. When I returned, the conversation had shifted to business. "The shipment arrived safely, despite your concerns," Dante was saying. "My men reported no surveillance at the docks." Castellano frowned. "That's what concerns me. Bianchi's people should have been watching. The fact that they weren't means either they've given up, which we know isn't true, or they're planning something else." I placed their plates before them silently, careful not to react to what I was hearing. "Perhaps they were watching a different location," Dante suggested. "The information could have been planted." "Perhaps." Castellano didn't look convinced. "Or perhaps there's another explanation." His eyes drifted to me again. "How well do you know your staff, Dante?" I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. "Well enough," Dante replied, his voice carrying a warning edge. "After what happened at your dinner party, can you be sure?" Castellano gestured vaguely with his fork. "Poison in your wine. It suggests someone very close to you has been compromised." My hands trembled slightly as I refilled their water glasses. Dante noticed, his eyes tracking the movement before returning to his guest. "I'm handling the situation," he said firmly. "Let's focus on the Bianchi problem. Their territory has expanded 3 blocks east in the last month." The conversation continued, drifting into details of businesses, territories, and names I didn't recognize. I served each course methodically, trying to remain as unobtrusive as possible while processing what I was hearing. It was becoming increasingly clear that Dante Rossi was not simply a businessman, as I'd naively told him. The empire he controlled existed in shadows, built on activities I didn't want to name. Yet despite this realization, I couldn't reconcile the man who kept his mother's photo by his bedside with the cold calculation I was witnessing. There were layers to Dante Rossi that I couldn't begin to understand. Didn't want to understand. As I cleared their dessert plates, Castellano's phone rang. He checked it, then stood abruptly. "I need to take this. Excuse me." Once he'd left the room, Dante turned to me. "What did you think of our guest, Lucia?" The question caught me off guard. "It's not my place to have opinions, sir." "I'm asking for your opinion nonetheless." I hesitated, weighing my words carefully. "He seems concerned about something he's not saying directly." Dante nodded slowly. "Good observation. What else?" "He doesn't trust me, or any of your staff." I met his eyes briefly. "He thinks someone close to you betrayed you." "And what do you think?" I set the plates down, suddenly tired of pretending I hadn't heard everything. "I think he might be right. Someone in this house tried to kill you, and they haven't been caught. That means they're still here, Possibly still planning. Something like approval flashed in his eyes. Continue serving as if nothing has changed when he returns. I want to see how he behaves. Castellano returned moments later, his expression troubled. The conversation resumed, but there was a new tension in the air. As I poured coffee, I noticed him watching me with increased suspicion. "Have we met before?" he asked suddenly, interrupting Dante mid-sentence. I froze. "No, sir. I don't believe so." "You look familiar." He studied my face with narrowed eyes. "Where did you work before coming here?" "The Bellini Hotel, sir, as housekeeping staff." His eyes widened slightly with recognition. "The Bellini. Of course. You cleaned my suite once, didn't you? About a year ago." I hadn't. But the intensity of his gaze made me hesitate. Before I could respond, Dante interjected smoothly. "Lucia, please bring us the cognac from my study." Grateful for the reprieve, I hurried from the room. In Dante's study, I located the crystal decanter of amber liquid, my hands still shaking slightly. I didn't understand Castellano's interest in me, but it felt dangerous, like standing too close to a cliff edge. As I re-entered the dining room with the cognac, I caught the end of their conversation. "Still don't trust it," Castellano was saying. "The timing is too convenient." "I've known her family for years," Dante replied, his voice carrying a finality that brooked no argument. "Her loyalty is not in question." They fell silent as I approached, and I realized with a start that they had been discussing me. Dante's claim about knowing my family was a lie. He'd only learned my name days ago. But why would he lie to protect me? I served the cognac and stepped back, my mind racing. The atmosphere in the room had shifted again, charged with an undercurrent of tension I couldn't fully decipher. After Castellano finally departed, escorted by Leone, Dante remained at the table, swirling the last of his cognac thoughtfully. I began clearing the remaining dishes, hyper-aware of his presence. "He suspects everyone," Dante said suddenly. "It's how he's survived so long in this business." I paused, a coffee cup balanced in my hand, including me. "Especially you." He set his glass down and looked up at me. "You appeared in my household just months before an attempt on my life, and now you've been moved to my private quarters. From his perspective, it's suspicious." "From your perspective?" I asked, surprising myself with my boldness. A smile touched his lips. "From my perspective, Lucia, you're the only person in this house I'm certain I can trust." The weight of his words settled between us. Trust, I was learning, was the rarest currency in Dante Rossi's world, more valuable than the millions he undoubtedly controlled. "Be careful around Castellano," he added, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "If he approaches you when I'm not present, report it to me immediately." I nodded, understanding the warning for what it was. "Yes, sir." As I turned to leave with the tray of dishes, his voice stopped me once more. "Lucia." I looked back at him. "Thank you for your service tonight. You did well." It was a simple compliment, yet the approval in his eyes made something warm unfurl in my chest, a feeling I immediately tried to suppress. Dangerous, I reminded myself. Everything about this man and his world was dangerous, but as I retreated to the kitchen, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was already being pulled into his orbit, like a satellite caught in the gravity of something much larger and more powerful than myself. A week passed in this strange new reality. Each day, I moved through Dante Rossi's private spaces like a ghost, arranging, cleaning, observing. Each day, I learned more about the man whose life I had saved, fragments that didn't quite fit together into a coherent whole. I learned he rose before dawn most days, often working at his desk until breakfast, that he preferred his coffee black with a single sugar cube placed on the saucer, not in the cup, that he read voraciously, history, philosophy, economics, often marking passages with a silver pen, that he spoke 4 languages fluently, as I discovered when I overheard phone conversations in rapid-fire Italian, Spanish, and once Japanese. I also learned darker things. The meetings that ended with hushed voices and grim expressions. The nights he returned with blood on his shirt cuffs that I was expected to clean without comment. The safe in his office that contained not just weapons, but stacks of cash in various currencies. The way his men deferred to him with a mixture of respect and fear that spoke volumes about what happened to those who didn't. Yet there were contradictions that haunted me. The same hands that I suspected had ordered violence also gently adjusted the photograph of his mother each morning. The same voice that commanded an empire of shadows also asked after my sister with what seemed like genuine interest. The same man who conducted business with people like Castellano also donated millions to children's hospitals and education programs in the city's poorest neighborhoods. I was lost in these thoughts as I changed the sheets on his bed one morning when the door opened unexpectedly. Dante entered on the phone, his expression thunderous. He stopped short when he saw me, but continued his conversation. "I don't care how it's handled, just ensure it's clean," he said to whoever was on the other end. "And find out who gave them our location. When you do..." He glanced at me, then switched to rapid Italian that I couldn't follow. I kept my head down, continuing my work as if I hadn't heard anything, though my heart hammered in my chest. After he ended the call, silence filled the room. "I apologize for the interruption," he finally said. "I didn't realize you would be here." "It's fine, sir. I'm almost finished." I smoothed the last corner of the duvet, hyper-aware of his presence. "What did you hear, Lucia?" His voice was soft, but there was an edge to it I hadn't heard directed at me before. I turned to face him, choosing honesty. "Nothing I can understand, sir." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "There's been a situation. I need to handle it personally." He moved to his closet, removing his suit jacket and replacing it with a less formal one. "I'll be away for the rest of the day." "Yes, sir." I gathered my cleaning supplies, eager to leave the sudden tension in the room. "Lucia." He stopped me as I reached the door. "Remember what I said about leaving the property? Not without security clearance. Today, especially, I need you to heed that warning." His eyes held mine, intense and unreadable. "Stay within the East Wing until I return." The gravity of his tone sent a chill through me. "I understand." After he left, I finished my morning duties in a daze of anxiety. Something had happened. Something serious enough to anger Dante and prompt an explicit warning to me. But why would he be concerned about my safety specifically? The answer came that afternoon in the form of sirens wailing in the distance. From my window, I could see police cars with flashing lights several blocks away, in the direction of the city center. Something major was happening, and based on Dante's reaction that morning, his organization was involved somehow. I tried to focus on my work, but my mind kept returning to the implications of what I'd witnessed. I was living in the heart of a criminal enterprise, serving a man who, despite his charisma and occasional kindness, was clearly dangerous. I needed to talk to my sister. Mia was the practical one, the one who would know what to do, but all calls from the mansion were monitored. Valentina had made that clear on my first day. I hadn't spoken to Mia in over a week, which was unusual for us. She must be worried. Taking a risk, I used the burner phone I kept hidden in my room, a precaution I'd maintained since our parents' deaths. Mia answered on the second ring. "Lucia? Finally. I've been trying to reach you for days." Her voice was tight with concern. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I assured her, keeping my voice low. "There's been a change in my position at work. I've been promoted." "Promoted? That's great." Her enthusiasm faded when I didn't respond immediately. "Isn't it?" I chose my words carefully. "It's complicated. I'm working directly for Mr. Rossi now, in his private residence." Silence stretched between us. Then, "Lucia, do you know who he is? What he does?" "I'm beginning to understand," I admitted. "You need to get out of there, now." The fear in her voice was palpable. "The Rossi family isn't just rich, Lucia. They're dangerous. Dad said what?" I interrupted, suddenly alert. "What did Dad say about the Rossis?" She hesitated. "I shouldn't have mentioned it. It's not important. Mia, please. I need to know." A heavy sigh came through the line. Before he lost his job at the pharmaceutical company, Dad was working on a project funded by the Rossi family. He never told me exactly what it was, but I overheard him arguing with Mom about it once. He said they were using legitimate businesses to launder money from their other activities. My mind raced with this new information. Did Dad know Dante Rossi personally? I don't think so. This was over 10 years ago. Dante would have been barely out of college. She paused. "Lucia, Why are you asking these questions? What's really going on? I couldn't tell her about the poisoned wine, about my new role, about the blood on shirt cuffs. Nothing. I'm just trying to understand my new employer better. Well, understand this. His family has connections to every major crime syndicate in the region. Drug trafficking, weapons, protection rackets, you name it. They have a hand in it. Her voice dropped to a whisper. There are rumors they were somehow connected to Mom and Dad's accident. The suggestion hit me like a physical blow. That can't be true. I don't know if it is. But please, Lucia, be careful. Better yet, quit. Come stay with me at college. We'll figure something out. I can't just leave, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure why. I need this job, Mia. The money. I trailed off, realizing with a start that it wasn't just about the money anymore. Something else kept me tied to this place. To him. Money isn't worth your life, Lucia. After promising Mia I would be careful, I ended the call and hid the phone again. My mind was whirling with questions. Could Dante's family have been involved in my parents' deaths? Was that why he seemed interested in me specifically? Did he know who I was all along? The sound of commotion outside interrupted my thoughts. I moved to the window to see several black SUVs pulling into the courtyard below. Men poured out, surrounding a central vehicle as its door opened. Dante emerged, his suit immaculate as always, but his face set in hard lines. Behind him, two of his men half-carried another figure, a man whose face was covered in blood, barely conscious. I stepped back from the window, my heart racing. Whatever situation Dante had left to handle had clearly turned violent. The reality of who he was, what he was, crashed over me anew. I was still standing there when a knock came at my door. I opened it to find Leon, his expression grim. Mr. Rossi wants to see you. Now. I followed him through the corridors, my mind racing with possible scenarios, none of them good. Had Dante somehow discovered my conversation with Mia? Did he know about my father's connection to his family? Leon led me not to Dante's office or quarters, but to a part of the east wing I'd never entered before. We descended a flight of stairs and passed through a security door that required his fingerprint to open. Beyond lay a sterile-looking corridor, more reminiscent of a hospital than a mansion. He stopped before a nondescript door. He's waiting inside. With trembling hands, I pushed the door open. The room beyond was indeed set up like a medical facility, monitors, cabinets of supplies, and in the center, an examination table where the bloodied man from the courtyard lay. Dante stood beside him, his suit jacket removed, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms spattered with blood not his own. A man I didn't recognize worked on the injured man, inserting an IV line with practiced efficiency. Lucia, Dante said, looking up as I entered. I need your help. I stood frozen in the doorway, unable to process what I was seeing. I'm not a doctor. No, but your father worked in pharmaceuticals. You recognize cyanide by its smell. He gestured me forward. This man has been poisoned. Something slow-acting that our doctor is having trouble identifying. I approached cautiously, the metallic scent of blood mingling with antiseptic in the air. The injured man was younger than I'd first thought. Perhaps only a few years older than me. His breathing was labored, his skin ashen beneath the blood from what looked like a head wound. Who is he? I asked. My cousin. Carlo. Something flashed in Dante's eyes. Genuine concern. Perhaps even fear. He was investigating the poisoning attempt against me when he was attacked. They made him drink something. The doctor looked up at me doubtfully. Mr. Rossi says you have knowledge of toxins. Only what my father taught me. I leaned closer, examining the patient. What are his symptoms? Respiratory distress, arrhythmia, disorientation. It's progressing rapidly, the doctor answered. I thought back to my father's warnings, the chemical compounds he'd taught me to fear. Has he vomited? Yes, immediately after ingestion, according to the men who found him. Check for methyl alcohol poisoning, I suggested. It's sometimes used in antifreeze, but it can be concentrated. The symptoms match, and it's easily obtained. The doctor's eyebrows rose, but he immediately began preparing a treatment. If you're right, We need to administer ethanol to compete with the methanol metabolism, then hemodialysis. I stepped back as he worked, suddenly aware of Dante watching me intently. How did you know? He asked quietly. My father dealt with a case of industrial sabotage once. Someone poisoned a competitor's products with methanol. He made sure I knew the symptoms. I met his gaze steadily. Why did you bring me here? You have a doctor. Because I trust you, Lucia. He moved closer, his voice low enough that only I could hear. And because I needed to see something for myself. What? Whether you would help save a member of the family that might be responsible for your parents' deaths. I felt the blood drain from my face. You know about my parents? I know they died in a car accident 3 years ago. I know your father worked for a pharmaceutical company that had connections to my family's businesses. His eyes never left mine. I've had Leon investigating everyone in my household since the poisoning attempt. Your background caught my attention. Did your family have something to do with their deaths? The question burned in my throat. No. His answer was immediate, definitive. But I understand why you might think so. The doctor called for Dante's assistance, breaking our intense exchange. As they worked together to save Carlo's life, I stood in the corner, my mind reeling. Dante knew who I was, had perhaps known all along, yet he still trusted me, even knowing I might have reason to hate his family. An hour later, Carlo was stabilized. The treatment for methanol poisoning was underway, and the doctor was confident he would recover. As we left the makeshift medical room, Dante placed his hand lightly on my lower back, guiding me toward his office. We need to talk, he said simply. In his office, he poured 2 glasses of whiskey, offering one to me. I accepted it with shaking hands. Your father was Matteo Esposito, he said without preamble. He worked for Novartis Pharmaceuticals until about 8 years ago. I nodded, unable to form words. Novartis was partially funded by my family's investment group. Your father was developing legitimate medical compounds, Lucia. Whatever he may have suspected about the source of the funding, he was doing good work. Then why did he lose his job? I asked, finding my voice. He discovered irregularities in the company's financial records. He was asking questions. Dante took a sip of his whiskey. My father had him terminated. And 3 years later, my parents died in an accident. Dante set his glass down. It was truly an accident, Lucia. I've confirmed this personally. A drunk driver crossed the center line on the coastal highway. There was no connection to my family. I wanted to believe him. Desperately. But doubt lingered. Why should I trust anything you say? I've seen what you're capable of. Have you? He moved closer, until I could feel the heat radiating from his body. You've seen fragments, Lucia. Glimpses of a world you don't understand. I understand enough, I whispered. The blood on your clothes, the man you brought in tonight, the conversations about territories and rivals. You're not just a businessman. No, I'm not. His honesty startled me. I am the head of a family with many interests, some of which operate outside conventional laws. But everything I do protects what's mine. My family, my people, my territory. And what am I in all this? The question escaped before I could stop it. Something changed in his expression, softened, yet intensified at the same time. You, Lucia Esposito, are the woman who saved my life. The woman who just helped save my cousin's life. The woman I cannot seem to stop thinking about, despite every instinct telling me I should keep my distance. My breath caught in my throat. Why? Because I protect what's mine, he repeated, his voice dropping to a near whisper, and I'm beginning to think that includes you. His words hung in the air between us, heavy with implications I wasn't ready to face. I set my untouched whiskey on the desk and took a step back, creating distance I desperately needed to think clearly. I'm your employee, I said carefully. Nothing more. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. We both know it's more complicated than that. He didn't move to close the distance I'd created, instead watching me with that intense gaze that seemed to see through every defense. You've become entangled in my world, Lucia. The question is what we do about it now. What options do I have? I asked, surprising myself with the directness of the question. You could leave. He gestured vaguely toward the door. I would ensure you and your sister were financially secure, new identities, a fresh start somewhere far from here. The offer stunned me. You would let me go? Just like that? It would be difficult. Something flickered in his eyes, vulnerability, so brief I might have imagined it. But yes, if that's what you truly wanted. And my other options? He moved to the window, gazing out at the night sky. Stay. Continue as you have been, but with full awareness of what that means. He turned to face me again. No more illusions about who I am or what I do. As your maid? I kept my tone neutral, though my heart was racing, as whatever you choose to be. His words carried weight beyond their simplicity. I told you before, Lucia, I value loyalty above all else. You've proven yours repeatedly. That earns you choices few others are given. I thought of Mia, of her fear for me, of the life I'd lived before stepping into this world of shadows and power. I thought of my parents, whose deaths might truly have been an accident unconnected to the Rossi family. I thought of Dante himself, the contradictions, the danger, the unexpected gentleness. I need time, I said finally, to think about all of this. He nodded once. Take the night. We'll speak again tomorrow. As I turned to leave, his voice stopped me at the door. Lucia. I looked back at him. Whatever you decide, know that I meant what I said. I protect what's mine, always. I returned to my room, my mind swirling with impossible choices. Sleep eluded me as I paced the confines of my gilded cage, weighing risks against desires I barely understood. By dawn, exhaustion had overtaken me, and I drifted into uneasy dreams, filled with the scent of bitter almonds and the feel of Dante's eyes on me. A sharp knock woke me hours later. I opened the door to find Valentina, her expression grave. Get dressed quickly, she ordered. There's a situation. What's happening? I asked, already moving to comply. Security breach. Someone's targeting the East Wing specifically. She handed me a small object, a panic button on a slender chain. Put this around your neck. If anything happens, press it, and security will come immediately. My hands trembled as I fastened the chain. Where's Dante? Handling it. Her use of his first name surprised me. A slip revealing her own stress. He sent me to ensure your safety. We're moving you to a secure location until the threat is contained. I dressed hurriedly in jeans and a sweater rather than my uniform, then followed Valentina through corridors I'd never seen before. We descended a service stairwell, emerging in what appeared to be an underground parking area. Get in, she instructed, pointing to a waiting black sedan with tinted windows. The driver will take you somewhere safe. You're not coming? Alarm coursed through me at the thought of being separated from the only person I somewhat trusted, besides Dante himself. I'm needed here. She squeezed my arm reassuringly. Don't worry. These men answer directly to Dante. You'll be protected. As I slid into the back seat, the gravity of the situation finally hit me. Someone had breached the fortress-like security of the Rossi mansion, the same someone, perhaps, who had tried to poison Dante and who had attacked his cousin Carlo. And now I was being rushed away to safety, while Dante remained behind to face whatever threat had emerged. The realization that I cared what happened to him, that the thought of him in danger caused a physical ache in my chest, was both terrifying and clarifying. The car pulled away, the driver silent as we navigated through an underground tunnel I hadn't known existed. We emerged several blocks from the mansion, the driver taking a circuitous route through the city before heading toward the coastline. After nearly an hour of driving, we arrived at a modern glass and steel structure perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. The driver used a keycard to open a gate, then drove through a covered entrance that concealed the car from view. Mr. Rossi's private residence, he explained, speaking for the first time as he opened my door. You'll be safe here until he arrives. The house was smaller than the mansion, but no less luxurious. Floor-to-ceiling windows captured breathtaking views of the ocean, while sleek modern furnishings created an atmosphere of understated elegance. Unlike the old-world opulence of the Rossi estate, this place felt personal, a home rather than a symbol of power. Make yourself comfortable, the driver said, gesturing to the open living area. There's food in the kitchen. Security personnel are stationed around the perimeter. No one gets in or out without Mr. Rossi's authorization. After he left, I wandered through the house, feeling like an intruder in this intimate space. In what was clearly Dante's bedroom, I found more evidence of the man behind the power. Books on his nightstand that weren't just for show, a worn leather jacket hanging in the otherwise immaculate closet, a collection of vinyl records ranging from classic opera to modern jazz. On his desk sat another photograph of his mother, this one showing her much younger, holding a small boy who must have been Dante as a child. They stood on this very cliff, the ocean behind them, both smiling into the camera. The sight of it made my throat tighten with unexpected emotion. Hours passed with no word from the mansion. I tried watching television, but every news channel carried breaking reports of a disturbance in the exclusive neighborhood where the Rossi estate was located. Footage showed police cars and what looked like federal agents surrounding the area. My anxiety mounted with each passing minute. As twilight descended, I stood at the wall of windows, watching the ocean turn silver beneath the rising moon. The beauty of it was at stark odds with the turmoil I felt inside. In less than 2 weeks, my entire world had been upended. I had gone from invisible Maid to someone Dante Rossi considered his, someone worth protecting, worth offering choices to. The sound of the front door opening sent me spinning around, heart in my throat. Dante stood in the entrance, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday, now rumpled and stained. A darkening bruise marked his left cheekbone, and a cut above his eyebrow had been hastily bandaged. "You're hurt," I said, moving toward him without thinking. "It's nothing." His voice was rough with exhaustion. "Are you all right?" I nodded. "What happened?" "The news is showing police at the mansion." He closed the distance between us, his eyes scanning my face as if reassuring himself I was truly unharmed. "Bianchi's men. They coordinated with someone inside the house to breach security." His jaw tightened. "They were looking for you." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Me? Why would they?" "To get to me." His hand reached up, hovering near my face without quite touching. "They've been watching. They saw how I reacted to you, how I moved you to the East Wing. They assumed you were important to me." "Am I?" The question escaped before I could stop it. Instead of answering, he turned away, moving to pour himself a drink from a bar set against the wall. We found the traitor. It was Davidson, the household manager who had dismissed my warning about the poisoned wine. "Why?" "Money." Dante's laugh was bitter. Bianchi offered him enough to betray a lifetime of loyalty. He admitted everything once we found evidence on his phone. I didn't ask what had happened to Davidson after that. I didn't want to know. "The police involvement complicates things," Dante continued. "We'll need to lay low for a while. I've arranged for your sister to be protected as well." "Mia? Is she in danger?" Fresh fear coursed through me. "Just a precaution." He turned back to me, his expression softening at my obvious distress. "She's safe, Lucia. I promise." I sank onto the sleek leather sofa, suddenly overwhelmed by it all. "This is because of me, because I saved your life that night." "No." He sat beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth but not touching. "This is because of who I am. The target I've always been." He set his drink aside, untouched. "It's why I gave you the choice to leave. My world will never be safe, Lucia, not completely. And yet you're offering me a place in it." I met his gaze, searching for answers. "Why?" For a long moment he was silent, his dark eyes unreadable. Then, because in all my life, surrounded by people who serve me out of fear or ambition or obligation, you're the first person who saw me in danger and acted purely out of decency. His voice dropped lower, "because you look at me and see past the power and the danger to something else. Something I thought was lost long ago." "What?" I whispered. "The possibility of being more than what this life has made me." The raw honesty in his voice undid something in me, some final resistance I'd been clinging to. Without thinking, I reached out and touched the bruise on his face, my fingers gentle against his skin. He caught my wrist, his grip firm, but not painful. "Have you decided, Lucia? Will you stay or go?" In that moment, looking into his eyes, I knew my decision had been made the night I'd walked up to him in that hallway, risking everything to warn him about poisoned wine. Something had connected us in that instant. Something beyond logic or safety or good sense. "I'll stay," I said softly. "Not as your maid, not as your employee, but as someone who chooses to be here, knowing exactly what that means." Relief and something deeper flickered across his features. Slowly, giving me every chance to pull away, he drew me closer until our foreheads touched. "I will keep you safe," he promised, his voice a low murmur against my skin. "Whatever comes, whatever
You are
it
mine
takes."
to protect now,
Lucia Esposito. "And you," I whispered back, surprising myself with my boldness, "are mine to save, as many times as necessary." A rare, genuine smile transformed his face. "I believe you would." His hand moved to cup my cheek, my fierce little maid who stopped an empire from falling with nothing but her senses and her courage, as his lips finally met mine in a kiss that felt like both an ending and a beginning. I understood the choice I had made. I had stepped fully into Dante Rossi's world of shadows and power and danger, but I had also found something unexpected within it, something real and true between two people who had recognized in each other a kindred spirit, against all odds. The path ahead would never be easy. There would always be enemies, always be threats. But as Dante's arms encircled me, drawing me against the solid strength of him, I knew with absolute certainty that I was exactly where I belonged, no longer invisible, no longer powerless, but chosen and cherished by the most dangerous man I'd ever known. And I had chosen him in return.